Rappers who blow up often bring their day ones with them, but what happens when they don't? Sometimes it's their fault, others it's not, and it's a tale as old as time in the music industry. Acts of making it big and leaving their friends behind, who were there from the start and helped them when they had nothing. So today, I'm gonna take a look at some of the popular rappers from recent times who have reached astronomical success in the music industry, but at the cost of leaving their fellow rapper friends behind. The first being Yeat. After Yeat had his breakout single, Sorry About That, and multiple others, he'd go from less than 20,000 followers on Instagram to hundreds of thousands in less than a year. And in the beginning, his plan was to bring those that were with him when he was down all the way to the top with him. He even has a song from his 2021 album Up to Me where he rapped, "I got rich with the same gang." Unfortunately, that was soon to be short-lived. Who were the people in question? His best friend at the time, who happened to be a rapper, September's Rich, and his longtime manager, Nextel. Before Yeat blew up, and while he was blowing up, Yeat and September's Rich were like bacon and eggs, always seen together, and were even the ones who created Yeat's signature Twizzy handshake, and was there for Yeat when Yeat was down. Yeat and Sep originally met through the internet and eventually met in real life in LA. They'd become close friends, making a lot of music, and they'd collaborate on songs like Trendy Way, one of Yeat's most popular songs early on, 5 to a 60, La M, Met the Devil, and many more. Furthermore, September's Rich was featured on 4 Yeat albums back to back once Yeat started to gain some popularity. Speaking of bringing your friends with you, one of the other things Yeat did to, like he said, get rich with the same gang was create a label with his longtime manager Nextel called Twizzy Rich Entertainment and signed September's Rich to it, as well as 2 producers of his responsible for early hits like Synthetic and Tragic. Tragic produced the song that changed Yeat's life, Sorry About That. The label promoted some of Yeat's and September's releases, however it didn't do much after that, and today only Tragic is still followed, likely meaning he's still signed. However, before their fallout, there were problems present already. Fans hated, I repeat hated, September's Rich, whose music wasn't very good to be honest, despite having songs with Yeat. That was actually some of Yeat's best early work, and September earned the nickname from Yeat's fans as Yeat's cheerleader / glorified sidekick. But Yeat didn't really let it get in the way of their friendship, and when Yeat had the fan base, he decided to go on tour, taking September's Rich with him as his opening act. Although the hate didn't end on the internet, at one of the shows, September got booed and fans would continually chant Yeat, making Sep react by doing this. Their friendship remained strong, but Yeat would slowly begin to distance himself from September, no longer featuring him on albums. But they still seemed to be good friends. In September of 2022, Yeat bought September a $20,000 chain for his birthday. However, in 2023, they started being seen less and less with each other, and eventually even unfollowed each other in the middle of the year, confirming they had fallen out. Yeat also unfollowed his manager of 5 years, as well as the label page they had started together, Twizzy Rich. In 2023, Nextel took to Instagram to share Yeat's betrayal of both him and Yeat's former best friend, September's Rich, by saying, "How you let your artist be so unstable financially and mentally after using him as a sidekick so you look less suburban on stage." He then said Yeat's new manager was Zach Bia, and Nextel said he didn't want to be associated with Yeat any longer. He'd also post a cryptic message to Yeat's Twizzy Rich Entertainment label page on Instagram, stating, "When high turns to buy." However, in Yeat's defense, September's Rich clearly wasn't a squeaky clean guy. He was a well-known scammer, rapping about scamming fans on Instagram and for features, and even had some pretty serious allegations from multiple women about him. Nextel put the blame on Yeat for September's financial instability. Pretty ironic because his name is September's Rich, but in reality, September was just like that. Constantly having legal issues, crashing cars, and drinking a lot of grape juice, which he admitted he had a problem with. What was really sad was his fallout with Nextel, who was with Yeat when he was nothing, and helped him reach the place he wanted. So did Yeat abandon his day ones? Was it justified? I'll leave this one up to you guys. I wouldn't say so. His manager, maybe, but who knows what really happened behind the scenes, because Yeat hasn't really spoken on this. The next rapper who abandoned his day one, allegedly, is Destroy Lonely. After signing to Opium, Playboi Carti's label in December of 2020, and later Interscope under Carti, he had a meteoric rise in popularity through that cosign. But before he was signed to Carti, had billboards promoting his album, and millions of monthly listeners, Destroy Lonely had a best friend, who he was close collaborators with, and helped him since they were young. Here's a video of them in a mall from a YouTube video, being called Ray Shrummer before the fame. And his friend's name was Nezis. Lone and Nezis go back to when they were kids. Nezis had just moved to where Lonely was living, and they had met at a cookout.
They throw a cookout, and I happened to pull up. I didn't even know Nezis at the time. I just pull up.
The next day, on the first day of school, Lonely was there, and after school, they saw each other at the bus lane.
I'm finna go home, go where bus you ride, because I knew where the buses go. It turned out he rode the bus, they go to the neighborhood right across the street from me. So he lives right across the street from me.
After that, they went to Nezis' house.
that day, I go home, I go to his house.
And a few days later, they started making music. When Lone went to Nez's house, he saw
when I pull up, he got studio equipment and everything.
Lonely was already attempting to make music and be a musician.
But I didn't have a laptop, I didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
He's got all that.
But Nez's had a real studio set up at his house, both for himself and his older brother, Big Smoke Chapo, who was also a rapper. So Nez's and his friends,
he was making a song with his friends. I'm like, let me rap.
and at first they didn't believe him, saying,
like, you don't rap.
He was like,
I'm like, bro, I rap, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
then they made a song.
yeah, we made a song, and it was probably like the hardest song made like back then, you know what I'm saying?
And from there,
Yeah.
Ever since then, me and him was locked in.
and Lonely used Nez's setup to learn how to rap. In an interview, Lone explained he spent every day at Nez's house after school since he moved, saying, Nez's had a studio that was perfect for what I was trying to do, so I ended up walking to his house every day to record and make music with him, showing gratitude as well, saying, they both took me in and messed with me heavily, and I appreciate them for that. Lonely was also a part of Nez's older brother's group, Addicted to Money, aka ATM. Looking at old releases of Lone's, they were released to Addicted to Money, and Lonely even has an EP called Addicted to Money. Using Nez's connections, Lone was also able to collaborate with other well-known rappers in Atlanta, like Slime Cito and Flu Honchos. Lonely and Nez's have tons of songs, at least 50 that are out, and even have a collab EP called Destroy Nez's. That tape actually got them expelled.
We got kicked out of school about a music video on that project. We dropped the music video.
Y'all has
The principal seen that. We ain't never go to that school again.
They were always seen together, constantly hanging out, and were best friends for a long time. Until Lonely was signed to Opium, Cardi's label. When he first got signed, he was still showing love, and it looked like they were good friends, saying,
that's my dog too, I ain't gonna lie.
How did you meet Nezis? How'd y'all, what's the
That's
story
my
on you
brother.
and Nezis?
I ain't gonna lie. Twin like.
but soon after, they wouldn't be seen with each other, or really interact much, other than on comments on Instagram, and they were supposedly on good terms. Lonely just got too busy. However, fans were constantly commenting on Nez's page, asking about Destroy Lonely, and it was starting to get annoying. So in the middle of 2023, Nez's made some comments to express his thoughts on the situation with Lonely, that he wanted to respect, and clearing up why he hasn't been seen with Lone, saying, y'all want me in the shadow of this one guy who ain't seen or spoke to me in 3 years. I'm a real person, not just some guy's old friend from back then. This came as a shock to most fans. Either they didn't know they hadn't seen each other in person, or that they weren't really friends anymore. I honestly thought they were still cool with each other, but just stopped making music together. And Nez's music has improved quite a bit, and I recommend you check it out. So, did Destroy Lonely abandon him? Not really, although you could argue he did leave Nez's behind, but I'll leave it up to you again. Honestly, they don't seem to be on bad terms, people just grow apart and it's a normal part of life. The final rapper of this video is Lil Peep, and before I start, I want to give a disclaimer. Since Lil Peep is dead, this isn't to disrespect him or anything. In 2017, Peep was really starting to take off and was seeing enormous growth. He was being touted as an innovator who had brought genres together and pioneered a new sound. However, prior to his massive success, Peep had a collaborator and a group who helped him birth the sound equally, if not more, Lil Tracy and Gothboy Clique. Lil Tracy and Lil Peep had almost 30 songs during the end of their run, and during their time working together, definitely left their mark. Lil Peep met Lil Tracy in the beginning of 2016, and before that, Peep was a fan, giving Tracy a shout out on one of his songs. The very first day they met, they made one of their biggest songs together, White Tee, and Peep messaged Tracy on Twitter, telling him they would change the world.
Some low-key, some crazy message.
We gonna change the world.
We gonna change the world, bro.
They didn't even speak. Peep just told Tracy he had a song for him, and they made the song, White Tee. It quickly hit 1 million views, and that single they recorded that day led to an EP, Castles, and pretty soon they'd become inseparable. Peep's mom even recalls Peep telling her he was with Tracy every time she called, and Tracy said making music together was like drinking water. They released a slew of singles and another project, Castles 2, as well. Pretty soon, Lil Peep was signed, and that's when tensions would arise. Tracy wasn't as popular as Lil Peep, and it was partly because he was getting shunned from the blogs and media, who were giving Peep the credit for the so-called emo revival. In a Pitchfork review of Peep and Tracy's song, White Wine, the editor gave Tracy a whopping 1 line for a song they had an equal part in the entire article. In 2017, Peep was really starting to take off and was seeing enormous growth. Even though their songs together were doing numbers, the attention was going to Peep. Tracy didn't want to be Peep's sidekick or in his shadow, he wanted to be himself. Here's where Tracy really felt left behind though. They used to kick Tracy out of Peep's apartment, especially Peep's manager.
I think it was his team.
The team. It was yeah. the team.
You can tell from the way he talked about Tracy with disdain in the Lil Peep documentary. On top of that, Lil Peep was relocated to London by his management, isolating him, keeping him away from Tracy and his other friends. At first, Tracy defended him, saying,
The GBC morale to have Lil Peep gone in London?
When did he? Oh,
Well,
he
it's the
just
first
left
day,
today.
so we don't know.
First day,
We'll
yeah.
have to find out, right?
but eventually it got too much. Tracy said,
You go to Berlin, you go in Germany, you go to space. Every show is sold out.
Yeah.
And you're performing songs that you have with your friends, but no one is there.
they were all in LA.
We're all back in LA beating,
Like, damn, I wish I was in Germany.
counting up quarters and
Seeing the
Fans would tweet at Tracy,
where were you?
Are you gonna be at the show?
How, like, it's like, no, we can't.
without any clue, he wouldn't be there, of course. So Tracy felt like he was left behind and didn't want to be a sidekick. Peep's management/label tried to sign him at one point.
They came to me too,
Oh.
and I was just like, nah, I would be a clown.
He'd be a shadow.
I would be supporting a supporting
Sidekick.
role in a movie.
However, he would be a clown. He could never be a sidekick, according to him. One of the main issues he had with Peep was he claimed Peep never used his voice to remedy the awkwardness of the situation.
He never tried to like clear the subject. Like, he didn't use his voice. He just,
You know what I'm saying? You call us your brothers.
whatever you call it, blog, post a, and they only talk emo revival. They talking about, oh, Little Peep is bringing back blah 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 blah, and they post a song of me and him, but they only talking about him. Like, bro, you have to say something.
Tracy would say some crazy things to Peep on Twitter as well. However, Peep told him he was his favorite human and his brother, even saying he tried to think what Tracy would do in every situation. Tracy, mad, told him he wasn't and he would. While they were on bad terms, Peep even wished Tracy a happy birthday, calling him his best friend. When he died, Tracy didn't think it was real. He had seen it on Twitter and they hadn't talked in a month. Tracy found out that Peep passed when he was in the studio. He described it as terrible and he threw up. He felt like Peep wouldn't have died if he was there with him. Now he has multiple tattoos to pay homage and celebrates their music. So Lil Peep didn't really abandon Tracy in my opinion. They were just separated through egos and the industry. However, many fans while Peep was alive did think so. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.